lot of you people like Mr. Sobine and the St. John sit there as if you're in outer space. And we've gotten rid of it, and I'm wondering why that is going to continue. Mr. Shine? Yes. I have some recommendations.
Thank you, Mr. Delangelo.
If I'll be allowed to suggest the recommendations.
I think your time. Oh, I'm sorry. You have how much?
13 seconds.
Okay, please. I'm sorry.
I mentioned the fact that the people should be here for due process. I think number one, you ought to demand that the recording. That's fine.
Finish your sentence. I'm sorry.
No, I have more. I have some suggested changes that I think is meaningful to the POC. Unless, since you decided to not allow other people to donate time to me, which has been the practice before.
Okay, thank you for your comments, Mr. Delangelo. By the way, you brought up Mr. Sobian. He did ask for excuse tonight, so he is not with us, but he is excused. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I had a follow-up question or two from the speaker, if you don't mind. At least to start with respect to the CPCs, I don't believe they're published, but I don't know how he could speak accurately to the facts of any particular CPC. But if the speaker has questions about how CPCs are handled, the way that this commission grapples with them and understands them and then puts them forward, I would think it would be important to hear what he has to say and come to some understanding of that as a matter of broader policy and a question of our conduct here.
So
I'm asking you to permit the speaker that latitude to explain what his questions are having to do with the CPCs or what might have been that you'd like to speak about, without turning to a specific one.
Mr. Speaker,
I'm sorry. Yes, Commissioner Paul.
I think that the public comment is reasonable, and I think 2 minutes is something that is allowed, and we should honor that 2-minute period because we've got many other people who would like to speak publicly.
Typically what we have done, correct me if I'm wrong, is that if we have a public comment and then one of the commissioners has questions for the commenter, then we allow for those questions. So, Mr. Siegel, you would like...
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
is this in order, or is this something that has just been taking place over a period of time?
You mean the time for questions for
Yes.
commenters?
Where it's time for a member to ask the person specific questions.
I don't think that happens in public forum.
Commissioner Shine.
I think the practice has been that we are permitted to ask questions of speakers at the public forum. The questions don't come out of the 2-minute assigned period. It's just the person's authorized. And I would share, just so there's no misunderstanding, I would share Commissioner Siegel's concern that what I was trying to say to Mr. D'Angelo was that he cannot talk about individual CPC cases, but if he's concerned about the procedure by which we handle CPCs or some non-case related CPC matter, then that would be perfectly proper for him to...
That's the intent, Commissioner Siegel. I was going to talk in general terms, and since I'm only limited right now to 2 minutes general comments on a number of subjects, the only opportunity I get a chance to speak additionally is when the CPCs are heard. And I don't have a clue because of the general or sort of idiot treatment of the citizens in the agenda, just what these CPCs are all about. And I've asked using the ICRA for a copy of them before every future meeting. My comments were intended to be in general about how CPCs are addressed, and I have no knowledge of the CPCs. You don't tell us that, which I think is contrary to the intent of this board and transparency and accountability.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
would it be more appropriate for comments to be placed on the agenda and addressed in more of a formal manner? We have many people that we would like to hear tonight, and we, by order, would like to hear them.
Well, you're correct. We do have people we like to hear, but I think it has been our practice of this commission to allow commissioners to ask specific questions. And what I heard Commissioner Siegel asking of Mr. Delangelo is if Mr. Delangelo, has a question about how CPCs are handled. Is that correct? And do you have such a question?
I have no other questions relating to CPC, not specific, because I have no idea who the individuals, who the policemen are.
So if you would like to ask a question about how CPCs are handled, this is a question, not a comment. You have time for public comment about your belief.
I'll pose them in the form of questions, and Chairman Cameron,
Okay, well, I will reserve the right to rule as to whether it's a question or
you
not.
can do so.
Okay.
The first question is, why aren't the subject, the citizens that file CPCs, allowed to come to the meetings when their CPCs are being heard? Doing otherwise would appear to deny them due process. Second.
Okay, well, is there a commissioner who would like to, who feels capable of
I don't think
addressing
we
that?
want to answer these, let's just tell them.
Okay,
Okay.
so we'll record that question.
The other thing is, when will you start asking for the recordings before you make rulings? There's an SOP 1-39 that's been in place covering both belt recorders and lapel recorders. Not once have I heard you ask before you ruled, where are the recordings? And why weren't the recordings being made? Not once.
Okay, thank you. I think we will go to others at this
The
point.
other question is, which I had asked the attorneys and they refused to answer, is since the names of the officers, two other questions. Why aren't you seeing?
No, this is your last question, Mr. DeLangelo.
I'm going to have two questions, Mr. Cameron. The other question is, why are you not seeing the original CPCs that mention specifically what the citizens say and in naming the officers? And secondly, why are the officers' names kept anonymous and their punishments, since this is public information under the Inspection of Public Records Act?
Thank you, Mr. Delangelo, excuse me. Who's next?
Eli Chavez.
Mr. Chavez.
My name's Eli Chavez, and for the new people, I'm a retired DEA special agent, and I want to address everybody that's brand new. I'm glad you're here, and hopefully you won't be a rubber stamp for the APD. And first of all, I was here for the training session, and there was an abruptment, or a real fast thing. Okay, I'm going to talk like I'm from Albuquerque now. There was something that went on that was very, very was not good. APD had a meeting back there with the instructor, and she ran out of here in tears. They didn't want to talk to you, let you guys know what was going on. And I want to start my 2 minutes now.
No, sir.
No?
2 minutes.
How come you let everybody else talk?
Just keep your time.
How much time do I have? I don't even see the clock here. 52 seconds? I want to know by show of hands, how many people belong to the NRA here?
This is not a time for questions.
Well, it is a time for a question.
Time for public comment.
And that's my comment. How many people belong to the NRA? How many people get subsidized by the NRA? There's a sharpshooter here from the NRA. I know who you are. And the people need to know, okay? Don't laugh at me, sir.
I'm not
Yes,
laughing.
you are.
I'm-
You gave me a smirk. I'm gonna be around for a long time, all right? And it's gonna get bigger, because you're nothing but a rubber stamp for the police department. How many seconds they got? 3? Any questions? Smirking at me.
Mike Gomez.
Yes, sir, Mr. Gomez.
I'll pull my pants. Oh, we got new members. I don't know, I should welcome you or feel sorry for you, you know? I've been coming here for almost 2 years, and nothing's been done. And hopefully you folks can do something. One thing is to review all audio, video recordings. If there's no recordings, do not believe Schultz's internal investigators. They're going to lie. They've been lying, and they're going to continue to lie. Just look what's happening with that APD officer who hit the poor girl. I mean, if things would have been right, you bet, man, they would have had dispatchers deals out the next day proving that everything was right. Well, they haven't. And it was already proved that they were lying right off the bat, saying he was going to a DWI. And the lies will continue. So just be aware of that, new commissioners. Review things. Look at them closely. And go with your gut, because you can't go with what the IIA says. Schultz makes sure of that, because he's already told his people publicly that it's okay to lie. So just remember that. You can look on the journal and find that out in Channel 4, Channel 7, wherever that too. Like I said, review the audio video recordings. Names. It would be nice to have names instead of just numbers on the agenda. And let these people have a chance to come and see what's going on. Not wait till after the fact and then they can do a request for something, you know. Let them come here and see what's going on in their behalf. Because that's what you're talking about, is them. Why don't you have them here? So there's things that you can do. So it's time to start doing something.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Commissioner Shine.
Yeah.
A couple of things. I would just, for your benefit and for the benefit of others, tell you that videotapes and recordings are available to us. In fact, for the appeal today, I spent this morning listening to belt tapes. So that they're available to us and they're available to commissioners, and that's part of this process. And it's unclear whether we're going to ask that, I'm going to ask to have the belt tape played at the time of the appeal. Unfortunately, I could really only understand if I had headphones on, and it just wasn't too, because they're belt tapes, so they're not too, you can't hear them very well when you're not earphones on. So I just want to let you know that, number one. And number two, a person under our rules, a citizen under our rules, has a right to come down here when an appeal is filed. And I'm sure you've been here when there have been appeals, and at that time, a citizen comes down here who's made a complaint and feels it's appropriate to appeal, comes down and makes whatever presentation they want to the commission. So I just, for your benefit and to clarify the record, I just wanted to make those observations.
Okay.
Thank you.
Now, because it says that you can, that you do it, does the other commissioners review the belt tapes? All right, that's the whole thing, you know. If one of you do it, that's great. But if
Thank
all of
you,
you do
Mr.
it,
Gomez.
yes.
Who's next?
Kenneth Ellis.
Thank you, Mr. Ellis.
Absolutely not.
just very broad reason why we need to target grand jury and still investigating. It's pretty big. No, there's no names, yes.
Okay, Mr. Ellis, you have 2 minutes.
Good evening, folks. My name is Kenneth Ellis, and once again, my son was the Iraq war veteran who was shot and killed by ABQ Police, and this board reviewed that shooting. The IRO at the time was retired Judge Deaton, and he found that that shooting was not justified. And this panel refused to accept his findings and ruled that shooting justified anyway. They justified it to the grand jury. This panel is worthless. You have no teeth. You're up here with a rubber stamp. You guys are victims of APD. You don't even know it, and that's a crying shame. I would like to think that our democracy and our judicial system had checks and balances to keep these officers in check, but it doesn't. That's the problem. There was a district judge that ruled that my son's shooting was not justified. The IRO ruled it was not justified. This panel ruled that it was. The grand jury ruled that it was. That's just proof that it's ineffective. There's no reason to even be here, other than to fleece the public and to give them false assurances that everything's cool. It's not. I'm glad to see that you're not reviewing a police shooting case tonight like you did last time with the Michelin case. You know, it's just very upsetting that my son went to war to fight for our Constitution and our democracy, and he comes back to this system here that's broken. So I'll be here again. I'll be here lots of times. I miss my little clock up here. It's a little easier to see, but at any rate, this 2-minute thing is also a joke. But you know, I wish you guys the best, and I wish you guys can get some teeth and hold these guys accountable. We need checks and balances to keep these cops from going rogue. So hopefully time will tell if this is going to become an effective tool or if it's just going to be some more policing of the public. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Ellis.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Mr. Shine.
Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to clarify a couple of things. First, the 6 of the commissioners up here now were not on this commission when Mr. Ellis's shooting case came in front of the commission. And I know nothing about that shooting other than what I've read in the paper today. And I must say I am concerned about the fact that a judge has ruled as a matter of law that it's a bad shooting, and I don't have any understanding of how the commission did not follow the recommendation of the then IRO Judge Deaton. But I'm not sure that we're in a position to really address that issue. I might be asking that be put on the agenda for next month for us to see whether we can get an opinion from the city attorney if there's any legal bar to our revisiting the issue of that shooting. We could discuss that next month at the appropriate time if the temporary chair would agree to put it on the agenda. But I am concerned about the sequence of events. Thank you.
If I may, Mr. Shine, it's an ongoing point at this point. It's already ruled in the district court. It's above you guys now. The bottom line is what has happened here is proof that this panel and this commission doesn't have any teeth. You can't do anything about it. Even if you chose not to accept the findings that she's presenting, the IRO is presenting, there's no recourse. The buck stops with the chief, and that's where we're at with that. We need to be able to make it so that you folks can see a more objective review of these shootings and these misconducts. I'm just thanking God the DOJ's here, and hopefully we'll get everything figured out. It's for the better of the community. That's all we need.
Thank you,
I
Mr.
have the
Ellis.
utmost respect for law enforcement. Thank you guys very much.
Norman Schrader.
Trainer?
Schrader.
Schrader, Mr. Schrader.
Have you each conversed face-to-face, in depth, with families whose loved ones were beaten or murdered by police? Have you allowed their agony and their anger to enter your own soul? Until you have, what right do you have to be on this commission? How many of the police murders could have been prevented by police using non-deadly weapons to incapacitate a dangerous person? How many of these police murders could have been prevented by police taking cover and then negotiating with the person in tense situations, even for several hours if necessary? How many Albuquerque police were in war combat and suffered PTSD themselves, or suffer severe PTSD from childhood trauma? What nonviolent alternatives do police use in cities where police beatings and murders are far less? I congratulate the Ellis family on their court victory yesterday. I strongly compliment the judge for his conscience and his courage in seeing and saying the truth.
Thank you, Mr. Schrader.
Charles Harrison.
Mr. Harrison.
Welcome, new commissioners. I just want to say that this board is an exercise of futility by design. The simple fact that 4 city council members have made statements that the city ordinance that created it needs to be reformed is all anyone needs to know. Recent revelations, the Ellis family court case ruling, credible evidence that the chief and city attorney conspired to tamper with a witness, and the death of a young woman due to the recklessness of an APD officer are just the tip of the iceberg that is bearing down on this board. The POC reform lifeboats are being deployed, commissioners. We, the people, are the captains. I beseech you to climb aboard with your fellow city councilors while you are still welcome and exercise your authority to suspend these meetings now. If you do not, we, the people, will leave you standing on the decks, and you will go down with the ship. Thank you.
Ryan Summers.
Mr. Summers.
I guess I have my own issues that could stem for about 4 or 5 hour good long conversations that run on the police department. But I just see you all as punching bags up here, and I feel very sorry for you because I know you are what is making our city even sustainable. You're good people, you care, you actually are trying to do things right. As Ken Schultz is, as all these policemen are, they know that there are jerks on the police force. They know that. There's only 1 out of every 100, 1 out of every 1,000. But you drive up and down Central and you see so many situations that we need to fix. We have a new casino going in to an area that is just absurdly poor. These are thought processes that our society needs to work around. Now, my own issues with the police department are very deep and in depth, and I really need to have these detectives, because I see about 3 of them here tonight, so I don't know what exactly transpires to figure out what's going on with my case. But I had a bar fight over a year ago. I it did an internal affairs 2 days later. I still was not contacted 6 months later, went back to internal affairs twice. And this all is a systemic thing that has happened because of a long-standing situation that I've had with a lack of answers. So I can't get any feedback on what exactly I need to be doing to try to fix my situation. But again, I do feel sorry for you guys because I know each and every one of you is a good person and you are trying to help. But you feel like maybe these people in society need help too. We all together need to do this. Thanks a lot.
Thank you for your comments.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, Mr. Summers.
Yes.
Commissioner Siegel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First off, I want to disclose that I believe it was you I spoke with at a DOJ's open house.
Last week, yes.
Thank you. And you began to talk about your case, and I said, please don't tell me any facts whatsoever.
Yes.
Okay. And I said, please come down today during open mic and begin to speak. I wanted to know whether you submitted any kind of a complaint to this police oversight board having to do with how your case was handled?
I made calls the next day after that Department of Justice situation that happened last week that was at the Alamosa Community Center. And I tried making a call. The head lady was out of town until Tuesday of this week. So I figured I'd come in tonight, see exactly what I need to do, maybe try to talk with a lawyer. Obviously, I think that's kind of become something I need to get involved with, but I have no money, so it's kind of a helpless feeling. But also with you guys, as I understand, I need to be doing two different things. One thing for never getting contacted back from the internal affairs after, I guess, a 90-day requirement that they were supposed to get back to me. And the second thing, also with just the incident that happened, was so off the wall and very dangerous, and it's become more and more so of a dangerous situation. I have the same people. I met a girl at a bar a month ago that said, yeah, there are people out there looking to kill you. I mean, it's kind of become a big situation. So I don't know with what I need to do to resubmit something to you guys. Would it be in writing, or is there a place where I would do that? Every time I make a call, I try to get more and more information about how to do that.
If you go online to the CABQ /IRO, there's a form there online that you can fill out. Now we do have if it's 90 days since the incident occurred, then
it's a year. It's been around a year now.
Then you're outside the limits. As far as Ms. Hammer, maybe you can help me here. As far as your complaint about not getting contacted within a time frame from the internal affairs, would that be?
Chair Cameron and Mr. Summers, the ordinance allows us to investigate and pursue matters in which 90 days from the occurrence. I would suggest to you that you go online to cabq.gov/IRO and anyone who has complained about a police incident and write out the facts, and we'll discern whether or not what you're complaining about happened within the last contact of the police being of 90 days. And we can get with you and explain to you why we would not have jurisdiction, why we do or why we do not have jurisdiction to review your matter.
Okay. Well, thanks a lot. I'm fairly worried because it did happen a year ago.
Commissioner Siegel?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to be sure that this gentleman's complaint didn't fall through the cracks accidentally in some way or another. If he was waiting to hear back from people and then 90 days expires, for example, he doesn't know anything about that rule.
Right.
If he made a complaint to the POC prior to this, which I have no knowledge of whatsoever, and that didn't get acted on, I don't know how the timing works, but I would ask that the IRO find a way to be in contact with the gentleman and ensure that he's had his fair bite at the apple, so to speak.
Chairman Cameron, Commissioner Siegel, it's my understanding that Mr. Summers has in fact filed a CPC. It's still pending throughout the process and has not been presented to this commission, and I've been informed by the staff.
Excellent.
So we will hear Mr. Summers' case. It's been going through the process and it still is in the process. It has not been dismissed. And it's a pending matter, so I would just ask Mr. Summers not to talk about the facts of his case if he ever comes back up again to, before the commission.
Totally. The one thing that scares me is I did ask the police because I wanted to leave this town because of the situation. And they said everything I have is completely dismissed and that I should just get the hell out of town. So I'm worried about if I move up to Colorado and come back, you know, is this going to be following me for a while?
Well, I think that if you have pending criminal charges or there's ongoing matters in which you're witness to other things, certainly you can, I can't address that. What I can address to you, Mr. Summers, is if you are a complainant, and since it's my understanding that you are a complainant, if you just leave your new forwarding address with us, as far as the Police Oversight Commission and the Independent Review Office, we will send a letter to you of our findings, and if you wish to appeal it, then we can make arrangements for you to appear by telephone for that appeal. So there's nothing from the Police Oversight Commission or the Independent Review Office which would preclude you from leaving town. And if there are other agencies and other matters, I could not address that.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Shine.
May I suggest that it might be more appropriate for private conversations now between the gentleman and the IRO if there's any further need for discussion. I don't know that we need to air this publicly at this point.
Yeah.
But thank you for your bringing it to our attention.
It's going to be a huge deal.
Okay, well, thank you, Mr. Summers, and I hope that we can help you out with your complaint.
Andres Valdez.
Mr. Valdez.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners, Andres Valdez with Vecinos United. First, I'd like to state that I'm here in support of Mr. Daniel Martinez, who has a case coming up with you today. And apparently, we understand the case to be one where an officer...
Mister, would you please not discuss the particulars of the case?
Okay, we're here to support him, and we're here to ask you to support Mr. Martinez in his case there. The other thing I want to bring up is the Police Oversight Commission. We had a couple of discussions with some of the commissioners in the interim, and we discussed some of the changes that the Police Oversight Commission needs to go through to become a reputable commission and to do the job correctly and to see if we can actually have true and genuine citizen oversight of police. And some of the things we talked about was having a police oversight commission that would have final authority on discipline. We also discussed having a commission that would either be elected by the people and either one or a jury style kind of commission. Nevertheless, there seems to be an openness to change, and not just to change, but to a complete overhaul of the Police Oversight Commission. And we're looking forward to doing that. Right now, Councilor Cardenio is proposing a town hall meeting. You know, we should say that actually one meeting is not going to really engage the public in true and meaningful dialogue as to what it's going to take to change things. We're proposing a task force, and the task force be made up of people that understand the problems that we have been faced with over the years. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, thank you to the public. We will now move to the citizen appeal.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, I'm sorry, what did I miss? Oh, minutes, I'm sorry.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
before we move out of
Yes, Commissioner Siegel.
Thank you. Before we move out of the public comment realm, I want to take a moment to thank our speakers today. It's not always a lot of fun to sit up here and listen to what you have to say. It's sometimes painful. But there are many good ideas that have been brought forward by a handful of the speakers, and we may be able to make good progress based on the ideas and the points brought forward. I would certainly urge speakers pursuant especially to comments by Kenneth Ellis, to engage the city council and us in a reformative process as we see fit and be an active part of a new and better solution. I think that a police force is necessary to our city, and a police oversight function is a necessary component of the police force. And I certainly, for one, believe in the ability of a public-based oversight commission to be a positive vector in that whole mix. That's why I continue to serve, and I would ask that you reach out and do everything you can to be positive forces with us and for us, and hold us to task. Thank you.
Okay, we are moving on to minutes, review and approval of minutes. We have several months stacked up here. We have November minutes, so I hope you've all had the opportunity to read through. Yes, Commissioner Siegel.
I have a question for Ms. Hemmer. I wonder, did you have a chance to review these minutes before they were sent out to us?
No, Commissioners, Chairman Cameron, Commissioner Siegel, I was out of town and did not review the minutes before they were released to the commission.
Thank you. I've spent some time reviewing them, and I have a few remarks to make, if you would, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
These meeting minutes as presented to us appear to me to show flagrant disregard for the Commission's explicit instructions as set out in motions in December and January, instructing your staff on how to and how not to prepare minutes as formal records of our work. In particular, we've asked expressly that lengthy summaries and verbatim or near verbatim recitations of statements not be placed in the minutes, but these persist. We have repeatedly asked that motions made be fully and precisely written out. These do not exist in these minutes, except in one instance on page 7 of the January minutes. Complainants' names are repeatedly used in the minutes from December and January, and I believe this is contrary to previous customs of the office and contrary to state law. And further, that from my point of view at least, the grammatical, spelling, and typographical errors far exceed what I'm accustomed to, and I've served on several city boards and state boards and commissions. These minutes are, in my view, unacceptable as submitted, and I've spent hours reviewing and then re-reviewing them. I'm weary and a bit embarrassed to have to mention these minutes again, as they've come up over the months again and again and again, but I'll stress that it's important to you that the office fulfill this relatively minor but important ongoing function of succinctly and accurately reporting our hearings. At this point, I would like to move to remand these minutes pending correction.
All of them. Remand meaning not to pass them. Pending correction.
To send them back to the office for correction as the office sees fit.
And does the office know what corrections you're seeking? Or do you feel like they should know?
Expressly, and I just pointed it out, motions made need to be listed verbatim. It's a very slippery slope to try to paraphrase or capture verbatim or nearly verbatim at any length the remarks made. For example, the remarks made in public comment. There are models which have been suggested to the office in the past from the Office of Neighborhood Coordination and from City Council, which regularly makes public records of their hearings, and I think these are reasonable models to follow, and they've been set out in previous motions. And I'm very frustrated that we do this month after month and seemingly are ignored.
Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second the motion.
Commissioner Shine, second the motion. Is there any further discussion?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I've got a question.
Wait a minute. Commissioner Peterson, right?
That's fine.
Okay.
I guess my question is, procedurally, the new commissioners, should we be voting on minutes from meetings we weren't present at?
Probably not.
We abstain.
I would suggest you abstain.
So would that present a quorum then?
No, that does, abstaining doesn't affect the quorum.
Point of
we have a quorum.
Point of clarification, please.
Okay,
If you have the new commissioners abstaining, will this, and does this affect the vote and/or the acceptance or rejection?
I will refer to our attorney for advice.
If the commissioner was not here for a meeting, it would not be expected for them to be able to pass on on how well the minutes reflect that. So,
But by abstaining, they are not creating a crisis of quorum.
no, because it's strictly an administrative matter.
Okay, does that answer your question? So it would be appropriate for the new commissioners who were not present at this meeting to abstain in their vote? Further discussion, Commissioner Shine.
Mr. Chair, I would just point out specifically that the IRO's offices have been given specific instructions on how to prepare these minutes as evidenced by Exhibit A to the motion that the commission passed in December. That lists the rules to be followed in terms of how to prepare minutes, so it's not as though this is a new issue to the IRS office.
Okay, are you ready to vote? All in favor of the motion, please raise your right hand. Okay, that looks like it's is there an abstention?
Yes.
All those who abstain from voting, thank you. So there are 3 abstentions and 4 in favor of the motion. So these minutes will go back to the IRO's office for cleanup. Now, we move to the citizen appeal. This is CPC 75-12. Mr. Martinez, I believe. All right, somebody remind me the procedure on this.
The procedure, Chairman Cameron, is found in section, Article 3, Section 6 of our rules. It says that 15 minutes are given to Mr. Martinez, 5 minutes for the 5 minutes if the police officer is present, 10 minutes for APD, who is represented by Sergeant Acting Lieutenant Linda Mock, and 10 minutes for the independent review officer, myself. And then 5 minutes for Mr. Martinez to rebut.
Thank you. So, Mr. Martinez, would you approach the microphone, please? You have 15 minutes to speak to appeal your complaint.
I don't understand the position of this commission. Most of you are new faces to me. The other commissioner, the chair, isn't here. I guess he was charged with misconduct or something. But we the people have been investigating this commission. And they seem to find that it's a Star Chambers Commission. I'm informed that the Star Chambers Commission was abolished in 1641 for this reason. A Star Chambers court, in order for its secretive, arbitrary, and oppressive procedures and the absence of juries. It was abolished in 1641 because of the abuse of power. Any secretive, arbitrary, or operative tribunal or proceeding is considered a Star Chambers proceeding. We don't understand. If you would explain, please, so we the people could understand what your position is here, what jurisdiction you have, who do you get it from, and do you have authority to stop what's going on? This commission has been here for years, and the matter seems to be getting worse. Some people are blaming you. I'm talking about we the people out there, your constituents. Some people blame Chief Schultz, and I'm here to say I've lived here for years and years. And I stated to our other commission, we have some of the best officers in America. And I've traveled a few states. I've traveled in Mexico. I've traveled in Korea. I've traveled in no man's land. And we have the best officers here. But then we have some of the worst. And we need to get together, folks, as citizens, as committed citizens. We pledge allegiance to the flag. I haven't seen it done today. And what we don't even listen to what we're saying. Now, we need a commission that's dedicated to the cause. This commission is dedicated, from what I hear from we the people, to cover up for the mistakes that the police does. I wrote a notice to the other commission, some of you may be here, to each one of them, including Ms. Hammer and Mr. I forget his name, another commissioner. Anyway, for this particular hearing, I requested that Ms. Hammer, that we have the officers that were involved in my case. You're going by hearsay evidence, just like Chief Schultz is going by hearsay evidence. And I don't blame him for respecting his officers. They're under his direction. They're supposed to have the tapes on. They're supposed to turn in the case as it appears, but they don't. We happen to know, and I happen to know that they don't. But then I got to bring it to court or bring it to the commissioners, and they don't believe a word I say. I'm a nothing here. My citizenship is nothing. My rights are abolished with this commission anyway, this far. I don't know about the new commission now, the new chairman. But we do need to get together. We need to find out what your jurisdiction is, what the law requires, your oath of office. We need your bond. You need to be bonded. Are you complying with the necessary requirements to have the positions you do? They tell me you don't. They tell me a lot of our public officials do not have authority because they don't qualify to serve under an office of honor in America. I have a commendation, so to speak, for the gentleman that apologized in one of our prior meetings. When they told one of the speakers here to shut up and sit down and escorted him out of here, this gentleman apologized in public, and I forget the apology. And then again he apologized twice. I don't see him here, or I don't recognize that he's here now. This gentleman here. Anyway, we the people accept your apology, sir, and they respect you with the respect of integrity and honor, because it's the hardest things to eat crow. I'm speaking for we the people, sir, which I am a part of we the people. Now, to help Chief Schultz, we don't have jurisdiction over Chief Schultz because he's appointed. But we the people do have, we're the sovereign. we have jurisdiction over Mayor Berry. Mayor Barry has been instructed to take care of this situation and help Chief Schultz take care of the situation, and it's not being done. Why? Is Mayor Barry getting the reports that aren't true from this commission, or from the city commission, or for the county commission? Folks, we're not together. We're not together as citizens. We're not together as relatives, American relatives. We need to get together and stop the carnage that's going on with our rights, with our duty, and we consider 27th lower in every country. We're not respected like we used to. Read the news, read the newspapers. We're not what we used to be. And unless we get together, folks, unless we stop blaming each other, because we're all to blame. In America, we are the sovereign. The public officials are the servants. They're under the sovereign. This is the law, folks. The lawyers here are letting us down. So, my issue here needs to be addressed by a court or a tribunal of jurisdiction with authority, and demand due process, demand the tape recordings, demand the witnesses. The gentleman that contacted me, and I would, Wilson, what was your predecessor, young lady?
Mr. Jewell or Judge Deaton?
No, that's not the name. Anyway, I wrote a letter just to notify them and this commission, the city commission, a number of people in office, of what was going on, just to let them know what the police did in my case. The first thing that Mr. Denton, I believe was his name, told me, this is a civil matter. Well, there's a lawyer, Williams is her name, that should have known that this matter was a civil case. Instead, she instructed her client to go and to the police, and so they went and the interview, you've got the interview, or the other commission did, you've got the interview. I wrote Ms. Hammer a letter requesting the necessaries and rejected the entire investigation in its entirety for lack of due process. And I forget, please excuse me, folks. But you have the report, and I rejected it in its entirety. You are getting documentation, it's all hearsay. The complainants, like myself, come here and nobody pays attention. And this has been going on for years, folks, in this commission. So my suggestion would be that you would demand my case, the lawyer in my case, to take it to court, to civil court. I go and I petition for a trial by jury, and I don't get it because I'm not a lawyer. You have to have a lawyer. And they accept me as pro se, but I don't have a license to practice law. So and they're supposed to consider non-lawyers' paperwork less stringent than lawyers. The law requires it, but they don't. They aggravate the situation for a non-attorney appearing in court, and he always loses. His rights are abolished or torn apart. I can't think of the word to say, folks. It is so degrading and demoralizing to go to a judge of justice in a court of justice with lawyers that take an oath to uphold the law, the Constitution, and they don't. You hire a lawyer, you pay. You know, we pay lawyers up to $500 an hour. and it's accepted by the bureaucracy in New Mexico. This is a crime, folks, that they're doing to we the people. We hardly can feed our families, paying for high fees. We can't afford a good life. Not that he would take my case, but I paid hundreds of dollars to have a lawyer represent, and he goes and makes the situation worse. We the people are investigating this commission, the city commission, the county commission, and they are the final say. They are the sovereigns, and I'm included in it. The public officials right now, they're not sovereign. They're under the sovereigns, which is we the people. We take an oath to uphold everything, and yet we turn around and let everybody down, including ourselves. Right now, the U.S. Justice Department has got the cameras on them. And let's see what they're going to do. They've also got the cameras on Washington, D.C. They're investigating our government. And I don't think they're going to find it 100% American. So, if you would, if you have any authority, send my case to a court of jurisdiction, because they won't accept me. I filed papers, they take my money for jury trial, and then they don't give me a jury trial. That's a crime committed against we the people, folks. I went to serve my country to protect my rights, your rights, everybody's rights, and I'm a man without a country now, so to speak. But I'm not. I'm a genuine American citizen, and I need the due process. I need my rights protected, and I need to have the benefit of my rights. And you're under oath. You're under oath under our American system to uphold and see that rights are taken care of we the people. Thank you so much, folks. And I'd like to know I would like to know whether you're going to do this or not, or I don't know who to. I got the message too late, but I understand the sheriff is the officer that protects we the people. We elect Mayor Schultz, not Mayor Schultz, Barry, pardon me. He appoints Chief Schultz. We don't have jurisdiction over Chief Schultz. We have to go to Mayor Barry. He's being investigated. We need to go with the duty that we have and supply the due process, equal protection, and let's take these to a court of jurisdiction before a jury, and that'll relieve you of your responsibility because you are being investigated, and that'll serve the purpose. If I'm wrong, then that's what the law is all about. Then Chief Schultz can arrest me. Then he can bring me to trial if I don't come. But until then, folks, take notice. We, the people, are investigating, especially in New Mexico, this police brutality. A while back, you read it in the paper. One of our fellow citizens was shot 46 times. 46 times. How did they find out that he was the son of a lady here in Albuquerque? How did they find out? Somebody here in Albuquerque called him and told him to shoot him 46 times. This is a crime against us, folks.
Thank you for your comments.
Yes,
your
sir.
time is up.
Let's see what you're going to do about this, sir. You're being investigated.
Is there, are either of the officers or the detective or officer present?
Chairman Cameron, no, they are not. They can choose to be here and they've chosen not to be here.
Okay.
It's my understanding that Mr. Martinez is appealing the due process that was afforded him in his complaint against the police. My basic understanding of what he was saying. Mr. Martinez filed a complaint.
Martinez, can you please step back?
I can't hear what you're saying.
Okay.
He's fine.
That's fine.
Mr. Chairman, his hearing aids aren't in.
That's fine. Go
It's
ahead.
my understanding that he's appealing his due process. He filed a complaint with the Independent Review Office, which was investigated. The investigator interviewed Mr. Martinez as well as the police officers. Also, the investigator obtained the belt tape recording from officers who were present at the scene of Mr. Martinez's incident at his home, in which he was the father of a gentleman who was under suspicion for embezzlement. Mr. Martinez had concerns with the police officers' operations and actions while in his home in a matter that was not really related to Mr. Martinez, but rather his son. Mr. Martinez's complaint was thoroughly reviewed. The dispatch tape in which the officer clearly is heard to identify himself was reviewed, and the officer did introduce himself to Mr. Martinez, which is one of the complaints originally filed by Mr. Martinez. Also on the belt tape, the officer does give his name or her name and identifies herself himself to Mr. Martinez. Mr. Martinez had concerns about the officers being on his property, but yet his son had given the officers consent to be on his property. So at one point, Mr. Martinez became somewhat argumentative with the police officers, and one of the officers at the scene said Mr. Martinez that he instructed him to calm down or that perhaps he could be arrested. And a review of the belt tape and the incident of that matter found that that was a lawful direction to Mr. Martinez because he was interfering with his actions on his property at that time. So we would just ask that you uphold your previous finding in the letter. And Mr. Martinez, his due process was provided through a thorough investigation of not only witness statements from himself, but also from the officers' tapes that were provided and the dispatch 911 phone call, which was recorded Mr. Martinez's statements. So we would submit that not only are the facts justified and the findings justified, but due process has been complied with in this matter. Thank you.
Thank you.
I can rebut now, right?
Mr. Martinez, the police department gets a chance to say something and then you can rebut.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, once again, I'm Sergeant Belinda Mock, and I'll be standing in for Lieutenant Miller. I don't have anything to add as far as the investigation goes, but the Chief of Police, Chief Schultz, did concur with the IRO's findings, and with that, I'll stand for any questions.
Yes, Commissioner Siegel.
In a investigative report dated July 16th, the complainant alleges that it's possible that the tapes were manipulated. Can you describe to us the chain of custody of how these tapes are held and where copies are, and express a little bit about how we can have certainty that tapes are not in any way edited or manipulated or maliciously changed or erased?
Okay. As far as the 911 tapes, those are tapes that are held within the communication center. They're not manipulated in any way. They stand as they are recorded. When somebody requests those recordings, they are turned over, and that's how those are handled. As far as belt tapes and any lapel cameras, those get tagged into evidence, and they stay there until a request is made for a copy or anything of that nature. Or if we pull the tape itself, we'll ask for a copy of the tape, but during the time that it's in evidence or anything like that, it is not tampered with in any way.
Sergeant?
Does that answer your question?
I'd like to know a little more about how you archive these tapes. There must be tapes coming in right now. There must be tapes all day, every day that are being brought in. One doesn't know what's going to become a problematic case and what's simple.
Yes. Well, like I said, once the officer or detective has his belt tape or his lapel camera, what they'll do is they will tag it into evidence at their area command or wherever they are assigned. Once that gets tagged in, it gets tagged into a locked locker, and once that locker is locked, it's not open again until the evidence technicians come down. They pick up the evidence and they take it to the crime lab where it's stored. And then they log that information with that evidence to ensure that it's packaged properly and like I said, once it's tagged, it's stored there, and it's not manipulated anytime after that.
Are other copies made during any of this process?
No, the only copies that are made are if they're requested.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Mr. Clausen.